Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinion on all things film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today with Kyle.
Good evening. Yes,
Good
hello.
evening to you. And the series continues of One In, One Out. No Gonzalo this week.
Yeah,
He's
he has a valid excuse.
he has a
So we'll
valid
let him
excuse, you know.
we'll let him away
You
with
have
it
to
this time.
you have to give us, like a week's notice and
I
a letter
honestly,
written by your
I
parents to say
just
why you can't be
yeah,
here.
I truthfully believe he just went. Oh shit! I've not seen any of them. I'll just make an excuse and just. I've not
Fuck
watched any
off.
of the films.
No, I've not watched
When
any of
when is
these films.
he? When is he not watched any of the films? Except
That's
for
true.
multiple
That's his
times.
thing. That's his thing. Occasionally
He
he'll
yeah.
surprise us. Oh yeah, I've seen that, and then we have to talk about it. But yes, he's
Mm.
away. He's away, so he cannot do this week. But yes, on this week's episode, we're carrying on. It's Halloween time. Of course, we're going to do spooky season, and because Kyle's favorite horror film is The Omen, we're
Yeah,
going to be
it
talking about
is.
the Omen franchise on today's episode. We've watched them all.
Yes.
We have very strong opinions of them.
Well, not not
I
not
have
not not all of them. Bear in mind, we we
not.
we
Well,
we, we,
no,
we
I
skimmed
do.
some.
Okay, well, yeah, some TV
No, we
movies
didn't
maybe not.
watch all of them.
Anyway,
I saw. I know we have strong opinions about all of them, but we haven't watched all
yeah,
of them.
yeah, true. But yeah, so we've got the Omen franchise to go over, so that'll be a whole spoiler film if you've not seen any of the Omen
Yep.
films, or you don't care. I mean, they are old
Just
films
don't.
after
Yeah.
all. Yeah, you can tune into that. But I'm going to start off with a review for DreamWorks' new animated feature, The Wild Robot. So, The
Yeah.
Wild Robot was directed and written by Chris Sanders, based off the novel by Peter Brown. And it stars Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, Kit Connor, and Bill Nye, as well as Matt Berry, Kyle. Yeah, our favorite Matt
Oh,
Berry of the show.
fantastic. Does he? Does he? Is he very noticeably Matt Berry, or is he like?
It's Matt Berry. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, there's Matt Berry. When you hear him,
New
it's
York
Matt Berry.
City.
New
Yeah,
York
brilliant.
City. Yeah. So the film opens up, and Roz, who's Lupita Nyong'o's character, who's this robot, she's come out this crate on on this beach somewhere, and she has to basically discover what her purpose is, her task. Like she has to go
Right.
around and this island and
Like
find
it
out
well.
who she's designed for, basically whose task is she meant to fulfill. So like I say, it opens up on this island and already it becomes like a very hostile environment. This giant wave is coming to her and she has to quickly adapt to find a way over this tide. And then yeah, she goes around this forest and she's talking to all the animals, has to learn their language that they speak and try and find out what is she designed for? Why is she being sent to this island if no one seems to want her? And
Right.
then, obviously, as time goes on, she then discovers this egg, which gets stolen by Fink the Fox, as Pedro Pascal's character, and she then fights for this egg because she crashed into this tree and destroyed this
Mhm.
home of this egg, and she feels obliged to look after it. She then
Oh.
finally fights off Fig the Fox to get the egg, and then boom, it births this geese called Bright Bill, who's Kit Connor, and then feels obliged to raise it as her own. And that's kind of the plot of The Wild Robot.
It's a
Now,
really shame that
first
the
off the
geese
bat,
wasn't Matt Berry, but I thought that would have.
I know he plays a beaver
It's.
actually in the film, so he has plenty of jokes in it.
Ah,
Don't worry.
okay.
Yeah, it's first of all, I wish Gonzalo was here actually to tell me about the animation process for this
Yeah,
because I think the
yeah.
animation is lovely.
He's
It's
very excited about this film. He
He's very
was.
excited about this film, and I really wish he was here because he could tell me all about it. But from what I saw, I can just tell you the animation's
Yeah.
very beautiful, very lovely to look at. It feels very like storybook like. It's 3D animated, but it kind of has
Right.
like this I don't know. Like I'm saying, a storybook illustration quality to it, so it feels like a
Right. I see what you
child's
mean. Hmm.
adventure novel. I think all the voice acting is also top notch. I think everyone does a great job. I actually didn't notice it was Pedro Pascal until the end credits
Ooh.
showed up. And same with Lupita Nyong'o. I didn't know it was them. Bill Nye and like I was saying, Matt Berry. It's like you could tell it's those two guys.
Well, it's Matt
But
Berry. He does it for his voice. It's no point if it's not
yeah,
his voice.
yeah, exactly,
I'm
exactly.
pleased about the Pedro Pascal thing because I feel he would. He's at least putting
Yeah,
effort into it.
maybe I just wasn't paying. I just didn't. For some reason I just didn't clock it because I was like, oh, I actually can't tell who this actor is. And I didn't think about it, but I think it is just Pedro Pascal's normal voice, but I just
Mm.
didn't clock it. I don't know. You can tell me if you see if you notice it.
Oh no, I will do at
And
some point, definitely.
yeah. And mainly what is so sweet about it is the relationship formed between Roz the robot, Fink the fox, and Bright Bill the geese. Obviously, a very odd triple what
Yeah.
do you call it? An odd threesome, like an odd set of characters to sort of get together, who sort of help each other through like what is Roz trying to do. Obviously, the natural predator of a geese is a fox, but they make a deal that then he's not gonna harm him. And it's really everything comes down to that bond that the three of them
Yeah.
form, and then the bond that they don't even realize they form over time because the film kind of goes through seasons. Um, there's a whole like migration plot as well, so you can kind of tell like when his time has passed very purposely so, and then I think it's sort of like a reflection on their
And it's yeah.
process together and them not even realizing how much of a profound effect they've had on each other. And I think that's
Mhm.
really the main crux of the film and where kind of the emotion comes from and hits. And I think as an audience member, I think that's also kind of the best part about it is that you don't realize how much your attachment you've formed between these three characters until it happens. And then when
Yeah.
these important turning points hit, then and the three characters realize themselves how much of an effect they've had on each other, you as an audience member go, "Oh my god, I feel that as attached to them as well." And I think it's probably the most emotionally resonant DreamWorks film. I think I've ever seen. I'm not saying it's better than Shrek 2. I still think Shrek 2
No,
is
no, no.
probably the best film they've made.
Yeah.
But as a studio, this definitely ranks up there with one of their best films.
It's yeah, I was saying it's funny you say like that kind
Mhm,
of emotional connection they do because
mhm,
I was like when I was like looking at it
mhm,
when you said you're going to view them, I looked
mhm.
across Chris Sanders and obviously he kind of his first feature film that he directed was Lilo and Stitch, another film where it is a kind of
There
two
you
characters trying
go.
to bond and bond, and
Mhm.
then he did the first How to Train Your Dragon. He directed the first How to Train
There,
Your Dragon film,
and that's another kind
another
of
one.
Bond. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then the Call
Uh-huh.
of the Wild, which was that Harrison Ford CGI dog one, but we just kind of forget about
Well,
that
yeah,
film.
we maybe yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not
But
everybody
yeah,
has perfect
no.
films. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the plot is pretty simple and pretty formulaic. I mean, there's a weird thing though, because like an hour in, like sort of what you think the third act would be happens much earlier in the film, and then
Oh
you're
right,
kind of like,
okay.
oh, you're like this. I was like, this feels like the ending of the film, and then you have to kind of check your watch, and you go, oh, we're only an hour in. Like, it feels just
Yeah,
oh, so we kind of get like where you think the film was going to end. That's not where it's going to end. It's going to end
it
like
it,
another
it
40
doesn't.
minutes later.
No, but it
Uh-huh.
just. Are you saying that? Do these 40 extra minutes feel like an epilogue, or does it
No, no, no,
just
no, no, no. I just
right,
like see when we get to that point in our end, you go, "Oh, I like this kind of feels like
right?
where a typical film would end. Like
Yeah,
this kind of
yeah, yeah,
feels
yeah,
like
yeah.
the ending, but it's not. It's more like the end of the second act into the third act. Yeah, but like overall, yeah, like it's the story's simple, but that's fine. The animation's like I'm saying, lovely, and I think it has that. It very sneakily has that kind of emotional impact that you don't really expect until it happens, and yeah, you kind of just fall in love with the three of them. It's a very, very sweet film. One up there with some of DreamWorks' best animations they've ever done. I recommend it. I recommend it. I'm going to give it a good 8 out of 10. Actually, I
I
actually
have
was
to.
was very
I have
fond
to.
of the Wild
Yeah.
Robot. Hmm.
Just to say, just because when I was on Twitter, I was like,
Hmm.
DreamWorks already considering a sequel, and it led to a really
Ah,
good
well, there you go.
it led to a really good Twitter feed where it's like somebody gave a
Mhm.
rant. We're like, why don't they just allow originals just to stay like this? And then somebody went, it's literally a trilogy of books. And then the guy went,
Yeah,
ah,
right.
sorry.
Yeah,
Like I thought that was brilliant. I thought that I just loved it because it doesn't
yeah.
seem to be like something that is a book. But apparently it's a very
Yeah.
popular series of
Yeah,
books that
yeah,
I've seen a lot
it's
of
like I
people
said,
on
it's
Twitter, TikTok now.
based off a novel. I actually also just saying I really love the poster of the film. The poster was very sweet. I'm just looking at it now on IMDb. I was like, that's a pretty
The
kind of perfectly encapsulates the film. I think that's a really good poster for it. So yeah, The Wild
oh
Robot, eight
that's
out of
that.
10. Go check it out.
Sorry.
Take your families to it. It's lovely. It's the best
I
animated
turned
film
I
this
turned on
year.
my iPad. It was the
That is
Call of
fun.
the Wild, and I was like, "That's not a good poster."
Oh.
Uh,
But now let's flip the switch, right? Enough of this
yeah.
sweet sentimental stuff, huh? Let's get into the Omen. Where do you want to start with this, Kyle? Right, because we've got four
Well,
films to talk about.
let's right, let's just we'll clarify which ones we're talking about, for instance. So the
Okay.
ones that we are not considering is the 2006 reboot of, or sorry, remake of The Omen.
Well, you can
Um,
briefly talk about that if you want, Kel, because I know you've seen it and you
it's
feel very
it's
strongly about
it's
it.
it's it is very it is for most of what it is. It's a shot for shot remake. You know, most of the kills are exactly the same or anything. The biggest issue I have with it is that the kid's creepy, which is just
Yeah.
ruins the entire point of the film. Because I don't know
Mm,
if you're the same about the original Omen. The child's quite
mhm.
cute, and you actually kind of feel for that child.
Yeah. I think
And
I think at moments
yeah,
he can be creepy, but like you're saying, he looks like a normal
oh
child.
yeah, but it's like no,
Yeah.
but like that. You see that if I saw the 2006 child walking in the street, I'd be like, that is the Antichrist. Like, no,
That's a
that's not.
poor boy.
No,
Yeah.
I don't care. The hair, the makeup department decided to give him a weird, creepy doll bowl cut, and they just went with it.
Made him
I do
very
think it
pale as
loses.
well.
Yeah, it loses a lot of charm and stuff, and it kind of adds
Mhm.
in. This is also some issues I have with the prequel. It adds in a lot more kind of
Mhm.
supernatural elements, more
Okay.
obvious supernatural elements, because we'll talk
Mhm.
about with the original that a lot of the kind of supernatural elements is hidden and you don't see it.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Whereas a
Mhm.
2006 horror film, they felt that they had to give something more to that audience to kind
Mhm.
of get them that scare factor. Yeah, so and
Mhm.
that, and also there's a 1990s TV movie, The Omen 4 Awakening.
Yeah.
Because so weirdly, they made the film and then they started writing novels to accompany the film. They wrote two more
Oh.
novels past the third film. So you
Right.
have
Okay. The third
The
film ends
Omen
pretty
4.
definitively.
I know, and it's mad.
Yeah.
The third, the fourth book is the Omen, uh, Apocalypse or Abomination or something
Awake.
like that. And
Oh right. Okay. Okay. Oh right. Okay.
no, the fourth film's called
The fourth
Awakening, and it's
Awakening, and then they've got Apocalypse or Abomination or
yeah,
whatever.
it's a weird thing. And I also like to give a weird shout out to the 2016 television series Damon, which Lewis, you would watch that and be like, this is what the second movie needs to be.
Oh,
Because
okay,
I
okay.
remember I was telling you about this, that it has Bradley James, who's most famous for King Arthur from Merlin, the BBC One
Yes, he
show.
plays Damien.
He plays an adult Damien, and it's a very Halloween scenario where it just forgets about everything before the after the
Oh,
1976
it forgets
original.
the sequel is perfect.
Yeah,
That's what I would
it's a
do.
Halloween 2018 scenario. But yeah,
Yeah, very good.
let's
Okay,
start with the 1976 original
okay,
The
let's do
Omen,
it. Let's do it. Mhm.
directed by Richard Donner of Superman fame,
Of
starring
course.
Gregory Peck and Lee Remick.
Yep.
And you know, there's so actually many
Pretty,
great
pretty
casts.
iconic lead and director there. For this horror
Uh-huh.
film. Uh-huh.
So I wanna give you a quick introduction. So he wasn't originally the first pick, Gregory Peck for Robert Thorne.
Okay.
Um,
Mhm.
you will be funnily enough that your favorite of the franchise, the second one, which stars William Holden. So
Oh
William
yeah.
Holden was originally gonna be Robert Thorne, and obviously he plays Robert
Well, I'm
Thorne's
glad.
older
It's his
brother.
brother. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well,
And
I'm kind of glad that didn't
yeah,
happen.
he couldn't make it, and obviously because of the popularity of the first film, was like, oh, I really want to be in the sequel. So that's how they
Mhm,
got him in the
mhm.
sequel. But yeah,
Yeah.
and obviously the basic premise is that American diplomat Robert Thorne
Mhm.
and his wife are, I think it's Catherine, living in Rome around the time that their son is born. Robert Thorne's told, your son's dead. You can take this child that their mother died. And he raises that child.
Mm.
All
Yeah.
this stuff happens. But yeah, so Liz, when was the last time you watched this film? Because I'll be honest, I watch it every Halloween. So I
You
am
watch it every
pretty.
Halloween and
Uh
tradition.
huh.
Wow.
Like, I'd say for the
I
last
watched
10
it.
years, it's been every Halloween,
Wow,
yeah.
your Halloween tradition. I watched it last week. I mean, I'd seen it. I saw it on TV when I was about 50. I actually remember it quite vividly.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because
Mm-hmm.
of the whole photographer stuff, which I really love in the film. So I
It's
watched it again
great,
last week
yeah.
in preparation for this, and yeah, I really like it. I know it's your favorite horror film. I really
Mm-hmm.
do like it, and I think its biggest strength to me is one. It's got some great kills. Two, the nanny is terrifying. The nanny is so
Yeah.
goddamn creepy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh, she freaks me out whenever she's on screen. I think that casting was inspired. I need to actually check out who plays her because I thought she was just like so
Can't
creepy.
get it up.
I think
She
Billy
is.
Whitelaw inspired
Yeah.
casting, right? I also think the biggest strength of it is
Mrs.
the
Baylock.
mystery behind it. Now, this is a problem
Hmm.
with the sequels, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Um, the thing is, this because this has the whole mystery behind it. This is Gregory Peck, obviously just a ordinary guy on very upper class ordinary guy, but
He's
regardless,
a
um,
bastard to the United
but
Kingdom.
yeah,
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 he's.
exactly. But him slowly believing what he's been
That's.
told by Father Brennan,
Yeah.
and
Now,
then solving the mystery, and that's where it hooks you on the mystery because you have so many questions as it goes on,
yeah.
and they all do get answered, thankfully.
So
Um,
that's the biggest
but I just
flaw
I'm
with the
so intrigued by the
sequels
mystery, and
is
we'll get
that
into that as the
is that
repetition of that.
everybody, yeah, and also the
Yeah,
fact that
yeah,
there's a lot more quicker switching to it. But yeah, I have
yeah.
to say that what film, if I was to be asked now, like how would I
Mhm.
compare the Omen, I honestly really compare it to something like Final Destination, where it's like an
Yeah.
environmental
Final
behind.
Destination is so inspired by this film.
Isn't
It's
it?
like right
It's
there. Yeah.
brilliant. And like,
Mhm.
so I want to talk about what you mean about the photography, where obviously you
Mhm.
get a photographer who's kind of following the foreign, because obviously they're not just diplomats; they've actually got these millions behind them, which is kind
Mhm.
of planted of
Mhm.
an idea, and it is kind of looked on in the future films. But whenever he takes a photo and he develops them in his red room, he'll notice that
Yeah.
there's maybe sort of like markings. And
Yeah.
if it's the original nanny, who I have to say, see when so obviously at that birthday party at Damien's, I think it's like sixth birthday party. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's probably his sixth birthday party. Um,
Mhm.
the nanny's standing there, and she just does
Mhm.
this really creepy. It's all for you, Damien. It's all
Yeah.
for you, and jumps. I find that really creepy, and I think that
Yeah. I
especially as
think
one
it's
of
a
like the
great
first
death.
as the first death, and you're like, what? Why is this happening? Like, especially when you don't realize, you're like, oh my god, what? I bet you notice that there's a kind of like string and a hook, and you know he's yeah, it's the photography's great and all that. And
Mhm.
Father Brennan, who we discussed earlier, was played by, I keep forgetting his name, but I should always know it.
This is the second Doctor,
Oh,
Patrick Thruton.
Patrick
Troughton.
Fruiton. I always
Troughton.
forget it. Yeah, this
Troughton.
Troughton, Patrick Troughton, who
Mhm.
obviously, as you said, was the second Doctor.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and he does a fantastic job as this
Mhm.
character. And
Mhm.
this is one of the gripes I had was that when they originally announced the Omen prequel, which would turn out to be the first
Mhm.
Omen, it was going to be centered on this character. It was
Mhm.
going to be centered on Father Byrne, and I was like,
What
brilliant,
would
because
change? Oh,
I was
you
like,
thought okay,
oh
okay.
no, no, no!
I
But
think I
see,
was
if
a
it
better choice than
was,
that.
no,
Uh-huh.
I don't
Yeah.
know, because I would have loved like him being it, because obviously, right, originally in the film he is an ex
Mhm.
like doctor of this kind of cult.
Mm.
He's got
Yeah.
the markings, and I would have loved it if we did this weird prequel horror where he is the main character and you're actually
Mhm.
with the bad guys, and
Mm.
it's him like kind of having a change of mind, not into madness but into sanity.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see it, but I'm not annoyed with
Mhm.
the original, the prequel. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's great, and their kind of relationship, and his death is brilliant, and just I love the music, the sound design is
Yeah.
just eerie.
No, I agree. I
It,
think
yeah,
the score as well is so good. I mean, I think it was definitely nominated for an
let
Oscar
me
for its score
check.
actually
I'm
because of how
pretty.
effective it was. Um, and I think that's also really effective in the atmosphere it creates. But also, it gets. I think there's also something really
Yeah, it
effective about
was.
it, and that is
Yeah, I was just say the composer got his only Oscar for this film.
oh, it actually won. Okay, it won an
I
Oscar for
believe
this.
it
Wow.
was.
Okay, for the
Yeah.
score. Um, wow, horror score winning. That feels quite alien
Best
today.
best
Actually, a
original.
horror film.
Yeah, best original score.
Wow,
Jerry
there you
Goldsmith,
go.
Academy
Um,
Awards.
But I think a lot of it actually comes down to, for me as well, what makes it effective is that also it's kind of a story of postnatal depression for the Catherine character
Yeah,
because you get this hint very early on. I mean, obviously it's not her child,
but we know it as
and
an
this
audience.
this
Yes.
hint very yeah we know that. But at the birthday party, the nanny is holding Damien, and you see her get visibly a bit upset that like, oh, the nanny's gonna, take away like the he's gonna consider the
The
nanny as his mother,
connection.
and I'm gonna be left behind. And then she's like, no, no, give me him back.
Mhm.
And then as the film goes, she's in bed, and then obviously like she has to see a psychiatrist, and she's just like, I don't think this is my son. And
Mhm.
obviously, literally, it is not her son.
Mhm.
But obviously, it can be read in the way of someone going through postnatal depression and then not
Ah.
loving their child,
Yeah.
which I actually found really effective. And then carrying on with the other stuff I really love, like say the photographer mystery aspect of it. I love the
Brilliant.
whole bit where the photographer joins him on the quest to like find out
Yeah.
what's going
Well,
on, and he's like, "Oh no!" And
he knows that
Robert
he's
Robert
not.
Thorne, uh huh. No, sorry, I was gonna say Robert Thorne says, "You don't have to help me if this is my problem." And he goes, "No, no, no, this is my
Yes, that's what
problem
literally I was
too."
gonna say because he
And
knows.
you see the shot in the mirror, yeah.
He
Mhm.
knows that he's not gonna make it, and that's
Yeah.
brilliant in that sense.
Uh-huh.
Where um he has a fantastic kill, where
Mhm.
the sheet of
The
glass comes
sheet
and
of glass. Uh-huh.
it's brilliant because you watch it and you're like, that's a rubber head, but I love that rubber head.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
like it's
great kill,
brilliant.
it's a good shot,
It's
yeah.
it's a it's a
Yeah.
great kill. It's a great shot when they go back to Rome
Mhm.
to discover the kind of origin, and they go to this church, and they're like, obviously the hospital was burned down, and they go find this
Mhm,
father who's
mhm.
burned and scarred, and he's writing,
Yeah.
and it's that kind of added mystery, and then you get to what I love is one of my favorite scenes in it. It's a graveyard scene where
Yes.
Robert Thorne's there, and they're opening the two coffins of the mother and the son, and you open the mother, and what is it? A jackal corpse,
As a jackal
and
well,
it's
carcass, I guess. Yeah.
carcass, yeah. And you're
Mhm,
looking at it and you're like, wait, what the hell? Like, is this actually
mhm,
what was like? Did they just put something
mm,
into
yeah,
the case? And then
mhm.
there's that moment where the
The bigger
photographer's
shot,
going,
I
"Don't."
think, is when they open the son's
Exactly.
coffin, and
And they're
then
like,
you
and it
realize it's a whole
is
conspiracy that because they
it.
murdered Thorne's
It's
child. It
c-
wasn't an accident
it's
at birth. Yeah.
insane because you
Mhm,
see the skeleton of it, just a huge
mhm.
crack in its head, and you're like,
Yeah,
that's low key mental. That
yeah.
I obviously you're not seeing the death of the child, but to even like
No.
imply that, I still
Insinuate that,
think
yeah, what's
so
happened?
dark,
Yeah. It's so
in this sort
dark.
of
It's so
cult.
dark. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And like that is the kind of stage for Robert Thorne that he has
Mhm,
lost it. He
mhm, mhm.
he goes to the archaeologist, who weirdly is the only character to ever have a recurring role in these films, because he
Yeah, he shows
appears at
up
the
in the
beginning of the
sequel as well.
second,
Yeah.
um, and he gives him
Bugenhagen. Oh. Uh,
Buchenhagen
mm.
shows him the 12 daggers,
Yeah.
that are used to kill the Antichrist, and it's the only thing that will be able to kill him. And that he's like, you have to kill your son, and it's
Mhm.
this weird torment. And obviously, his wife is obviously, like I said, struggling with a lot of things, and then this force stroke Damien on a wee like very tricycle shiny kind of vibe
Yeah, very I mean, I think
knocks
The
her.
Shining was definitely inspired by these shots,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Um, he knocks her, he falls down, she falls
Mhm.
down, and she's in the hospital. And then she does a very, I mildly say, comedic death, where she
Mhm.
kind of flies
Mhm.
out the hospital room and
Yeah.
falls
I
onto an
found that death
ambulance.
really because the nanny's involved with it. I found
Yeah.
that death really creepy, just because of the way it's
I
done. Well,
I
her
have to admit,
falling out the
I find it funny that it's like she
Mhm.
falls and then the ambulance door opens. I always just kind of find
Yeah.
that funny in a
I
sense of
think
just
that is
setting it
great. I
up.
love that.
It's
But you
brilliant,
see
and
the
I
fall.
chuckle every
Like,
time.
I was like,
Yeah.
that if that's a dummy, that is looks like an incredibly realistic dummy. I think the effect is
Mm.
very, very powerful.
I
I mean, it
I
could be a
think they
stunt
just
double
chucked her
going onto a
out.
crash mat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they just
Well,
killed her. They
like
just
I
killed.
no,
They
'cause
just
yeah,
killed her.
that's
Mhm.
why I think the door's there, because it is a crash
Right.
mat,
Yeah.
and they can
It's a
cut and
crash
then
mat.
set it
Yeah.
and open
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like
because
I
it
love it
looks
because
great. Mhm.
yeah, and I think it does look great, but I love that scene because I know that's exactly what they probably did, and it's just to
Mhm,
make it
mhm,
work, and it's
mhm.
brilliant. It's 70s filmmaking at its
Yeah,
peak.
it's fantastic,
Um,
and I think the ending as well, perfect, you know,
Mate,
Robert Thorne
the
finally
ending
believes
is
his son is the son of the Antichrist, and so attempts to kill him, and then
the Antichrist, son of the
as he's at
devil.
when he's at the
Yeah.
altar of Christ and he's about to kill him, the police come in, boom, he shot with a bullet. What happened? There's
Uh huh.
we cut to two coffins at this burial, and then boom, the camera pans down. Who's holding this little boy's hand? Turns to the camera. Damien smiles. Great
Well,
ending.
it's
Great
but it's
ending.
also
Uh huh.
the fact that somebody comes up and say the car's ready, Mr. President, and you're realizing
Mm-hmm.
shit. This is the conspiracy to get this kid at
Yeah,
the
into
top of the
a
free
position of
world in that
power.
sense, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
kind of sitting here going, and the kid turns to the camera, and the kid's adorable but creepy,
Mhm.
and you're like,
Yeah.
this kid kind of knows something's like
Uh-huh.
there or not, and depending how you feel
Mhm.
of what you think the future of the character should be. It's
Mhm.
like, does he know instantly? Does he kind of have an inkling? Is it kind of like an urge?
Okay.
Well, no, this is the thing, right?
Okay,
So, like
fine.
I said,
Mhm.
moving on to the sequel. Now, this is something like when we
Mhm.
talk about if you're to mention the 2016 Damien, he has no clue, right? He just grew up
Right.
in the kind of
Mhm.
foster care, and I
Mhm.
kind of like that because I like the
Mhm.
idea of him falling into the
Mhm.
like he has to kind of go down that path.
Mhm.
Weirdly, Good Omens, the TV show, does a kind of good kind of view of that where they have the son of the son of the
Mhm.
devil and him kind of
Yeah.
finding out who he was. But yeah,
Yeah.
but then we get to the sequel, Damien the Omen 2. No, the- is it? Yeah, it's Damien the Omen 2,
It's
isn't it?
weird. I don't know why they called it that. It's called Damien
Uh
Dash Omen 2. Just call it
And,
Omen
and
2
also, I also like to
Damien.
point out,
Like,
they initially
yeah.
released the third one as just the final conflict, and then they had to redo it because
They
they went,
didn't
oh shit,
call it the
nobody knew.
Omen.
Yeah,
Why?
they went, yeah, genuinely, then they had to change it to Omen 3, the
Oh.
final conflict, because they realized nobody knew what was this film was
What the hell
about.
they were? Well, yeah, because you can't just call a film the final. That's
Uh
like, oh,
I
we're gonna
know.
release the next Fast and Furious film. We're gonna call it. We're gonna call this film the final conflict. Everyone will know what we're talking about. No, we
Yeah,
won't.
and yeah. So obviously, is it 1978? I think this one only came out like a couple of
Yeah, it
years
was a couple
later.
years later.
Richard Donner was scheduled to reprise his role.
As
Reprise the
director.
directorial seat,
Yeah,
but it was doing
he was
Superman,
doing Superman. He was doing Superman.
which
Fair enough.
which inevitably led to Ant-Man Quantumania, another film. So did he make the right decision? Who
I
knows?
do.
But
I
yeah,
would have loved to have seen what Richard Donner would have done with this film instead, because I said
because
this to you
you
last
need
night.
to do something. Now, I'm pretty sure the
I
director that we have in this wasn't even
Mhm.
the first director because I'm gonna try to get where's the Omen franchise. Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting the information up. So Don Taylor directed this film, um,
Uh-huh.
and from what I remember, seeing stuff about it is that he wasn't the first director. Mike Hoggs
Hmm.
was, I believe, it was the first director because there's some of his scenes that are still in the film that
Oh, okay. So
Don
they put
Taylor
some
they
other
just
stuff in.
did. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try and find out if we can see find out how much he did, but I don't know. It doesn't say exactly how long he did it, but yeah, there was. Mike Hoggs was originally helmed to direct this film.
Hmm.
He originally directed. Actually, this is amazing. Sorry, I've just realized this. He did the Terminal Man, which I believe is. I don't think. No,
I've
no, I'm
not
thinking
seen
the Running
Terminal.
Man.
Oh,
I'm
the
thinking Running
Running
Man.
Man. Okay, okay.
Yeah, not the Running Man. He didn't. I was thinking of the Running Man, but he did this film, got chucked from it, and guess what he went on to direct?
I don't know.
Flash
You tell me.
Gordon.
Oh, Flash Gordon.
Uh huh.
Once
Which
again,
is
another
amazing.
better
Which
film.
another save from this franchise is obviously there's obviously, by the way, you could do a whole episode of the filming of the original Omen and how it's
Yeah,
so
I've heard.
cursed.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, the plot of the Omen, the Damien Omen 2 follows like a 15-ish, 14 years old Omen, Damien living with his uncle, um, who, like I said, to William Holden, who's Richard Thorne in this, his second wife, Anne Thorne, and their
Mhm.
son, who was Mark, and living the life there. And yeah, I'm gonna pass this to Lewis because
Okay.
I've seen this film a couple of times. I knew it. I kind of hid from the fact of how interesting this film was. I've always
No,
said that the
interesting's not
sequels
the word.
aren't great.
Interesting is not the word. This film is
Yeah.
terrible.
Uh,
It's so. I said this to you guys in chat last night. It's the most boring film I've ever seen. I was so utterly bored.
so
It's just there's
yeah,
for me there's nothing of value to it. It's like you're saying. It repeats the first film. People trying to
it
figure out
does.
what's going on, but just with less intrigue, bit worse acting. There's no atmosphere or creepiness or mood or anything. It doesn't even remotely
There's
feel like a
nothing.
horror film because it's just so empty. The entire subplot of Damien going to military school utterly pointless. Why?
It's utterly.
And then. Well, yeah, completely. It's just, oh, he's at military school. There's
Yeah,
something
no,
for
no,
us
no.
to film, I guess.
It is.
Uh,
Because
and
yeah,
then also they have
it's
that thing
weird.
where you say, right, to me it doesn't make sense that Damien doesn't know he's evil, right? Because in the first film, he attempts to kill his mum, right? Instinctively freaks out at the image of church. And also, there's plenty to imply
I
that there's some sort of weird demonic ritualistic thing going on in the room with the nanny, the dog, and Damien. There's some sort of
yeah,
weird stuff going on between the three of them, right?
I know,
So
I know.
so then
I
you have
haven't.
this
Yeah.
film where he then discovers the mark of the beast on him and then has this
Mhm.
moment where he runs out on the dock and screams at the sunset, "Why me?"
That is
And I'm like,
quite
what
funny.
the fuck are you talking
Uh huh.
about? You're the son of the Antichrist. Like, why is it?
It's uh-huh.
Why is he trying to
I
play like,
no,
oh, he doesn't know
I
what he
don't.
is? I
I
hate
know,
that.
I know. I
Huh.
I never I don't agree with the thing of him like denying what he is. I like the
Mhm,
idea of him realizing what he is and
mhm,
realizing his
uh-huh,
like kind of true potential. Because I
mhm.
know like see the whole thing is as a kid, right? I always kind of thought those would be his like instincts and stuff because like
Yeah,
him consciously doesn't probably realize what he was
uh-huh,
doing. And then
uh-huh,
I would have loved to have seen this kind of teenage Damien kind of realize that because like you're saying in this film he's like when he meets the new lieutenant he comes out and does this weird
mhm.
stare down at one of the bullies and like
Yeah. Yeah,
makes him has a
uses
spasm
his
attack.
powers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I would love this a Damien that kind of was doing this and didn't realize what he was doing, but realized he
Mhm,
liked inflicting this kind of almost like a weird
mhm.
sort of like Dextery prequel where he was like, why do I like these
Yeah.
urges? Why do I have these
Yeah.
urges? And then
That
the
would be
people
interesting,
protect,
yeah.
and then the people around him are like
Mhm.
protecting him. Dexter's a really actually funny, good, like I would say comparison where you can have him going,
Yeah.
but I have these strange like loving feelings for these surrogate parents, and they're going,
Uh-huh.
but these urges inside me, they almost feel
Yeah.
natural, and you
Yeah.
have because I'd say the one thing I kind of like about this film is
Mhm.
that reveal that the mum was always a disciple of Damien. I
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of like
yeah.
that because
Uh-huh.
I always like the idea of them kind of this cult placing people within Damien's life.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that I it's a really terrible reveal, but I like the way that she reveals herself that she was always Damien's, and I like the fact that Damien just immediately kills her. I kind of
Yeah.
like that bit. I think that's really
Mhm.
cool. I think it's done terribly because I like the point that
Yeah.
Damien. No, you get me because like if you
Yeah.
think about it in the
Yeah.
grander scale, a Damien who kind of goes that yeah she was always there for me, but she's not
Mhm.
useful to me anymore. That
Mhm.
I have to
Yes.
keep up this facade to get to the top.
Mhm. Mhm.
Which is I've always kind of like upset the kind of I know it doesn't make sense that obviously a
Mhm.
president is only president for 8 years. So like it's not
Yeah.
like I always say it's not a like inheritance thing, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But the
You just
whole
have to get elected and whatever else, yeah. But
I would
there's
have
another.
liked
Well, this
the
gets into the bigger
yeah.
problem to me with the sequels as well, is that Damien's powers are very like we don't really understand like what how effective they are, how powerful they are, like what is the extent of his powers. It's not like
No. I
like we know
yeah.
like we know Superman's powers. He's got this list of powers. He's super strong, he can fly.
Uh-huh.
He's got laser vision and freeze breath and X-ray vision. Right, that was a lot. I should have picked a superhero with less
Yeah, you
power.
could have got
But
it.
you know
Yeah,
the list. You know what
yeah.
he's capable of, and you know his weakness. With Damien though, I'm like, so can he just do anything to anyone? Because he
This is
can
my
just look at
this is also
people and
my
then
issue. Is
uh-huh.
I would have also loved
Mhm.
them to keep this mysterious power that
Mhm.
he like maybe wishes things upon people and it happens. Like, see
Yeah.
that bully, he hates the
Yeah.
bully, but maybe then the bully dies somehow. Because you
Uh-huh.
have so many of these kills where it's people who barely interact with Damien. Because
Yeah.
so
These
obviously,
people
right,
who
you
figure
have
things out, they die.
the doctor who
Uh-huh.
takes the thing and realizes he's got jackal membrane in him, right? And he runs to
Mhm.
get to him. You need a scene where it's like Damien realizes who he is. The doctor finds out. Damien realizes the doctor finds out. Damien's like, I need this guy killed. And boom, the
Yeah.
force does it. So it's like he doesn't
The
have a
Force.
power, but
That's
he
what it is. It
has
is the
the
Force.
force. It is, but he has his father,
Mhm.
Satan, the devil, whoever, looking over him and protecting him. That I think is meant to be his power, and like I just think they struggled with that concept. It annoys me because obviously we're not filmmakers to a liter sense, but I'm like, God, this actually such an easy way to make this film into a good story, and I know it struggled with production wise and
Mhm.
the directors. It had all in all like three directors attached to it at one point.
Mhm.
Um, and it does greatly annoy me because Robert, the foreign character, his uncle, does do the exact same story as Robert Ford in the
Yeah, it's
original,
the exact same. And
and
I
it
I was saying
is
this problem to
dumb.
you is that the film doesn't really have a protagonist until the last, like, 15 minutes. Like, you're just
Yeah,
kind of following kind of just all these different characters about, and then you're like, "Who am I following Damien? Am I following Robert Thorne's brother? Am I following
it's
his other brother?" Like, I was just like, "Who are we really meant to care for?" Because I
I
didn't care for
know
anyone in this.
it
Like, who are we
annoys
meant
me
to actually
because
care
like
for?
like I said, it annoys me because I think there's bits in this that I really think could be great. When Damien kills
Uh-huh.
Mark, when Damien's like begging Mark to follow him into a sense,
Yeah.
and Mark's like, no. So Damien makes him have a blood clot or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, it's once again, is it Damien? It was Damien doing it in this one, but I think it should have been like, his father goes, right, he's not a part of your plan. I'll get rid of him.
Mhm.
Which is
Yeah.
something great and something that I just thought was such a cool concept because it is shown that
Mhm.
him and Mark have a close relationship throughout that film. So like his death is
Yeah.
meant to be impactful. And like I said, the kind of the Anakin Sith turning of Damien is done so bad in this, where it should have been he should have been a creepy kid that maybe was like, why is this kid always like dissecting insects? Let's
Mhm,
send him to
mhm,
military school to like help him
mhm.
fix that, you know,
Yeah.
and in something else, there is a way to do this kind of descend into this antichrist that he is that they just for some reason didn't bother to do.
No.
Kept the formula of like, and it's also annoying because like half the plot with like the foreign business and stuff, like
Mhm.
so many of the deaths are not that connected to Damien in like
No.
the direct sense of the word. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, you could put it as like the nanny at the start was like a message, was literally like a birthday gift from his dad, almost
Yeah.
saying like, "I can do this for you. Like,
Yeah.
this is my power."
Mhm.
And like, I always felt that it was always like you see in the first one how they're all very direct because the priest was going to do something, the photographer was going to do something, the nanny was basically a gift. His mum was going to have a child, which would ruin his ascension to this power. And then you have so many weird deaths in this film. Like the ones that make sense are Mark, um, the doctor, in a kind of weird sense.
Mhm.
His death does
Yeah.
make sense. And then
Yeah.
the death at the end of his aunt, where he is basically saying, "Nah, this is my. I am. I don't decide you live.
Mhm.
I can do whatever you want."
Mhm.
There's so many weird deaths in this. It's such an annoying film because I really think you can do it so good, and it's
No,
such.
there's and I think this also kind of gets into the problem with the third one as well, is that there's such
Third one's
the
funnier, I
idea of
think.
the third one. I think the third one is slightly more entertaining, so I kind of prefer that one.
Yeah,
But um there's just with this concept of the Antichrist getting to these positions of high up power, it's so just lacks any imagination or any enjoyment
yeah,
or any fun or like anything remotely exciting or creepy. It's just like He's just
because
boring. Like, how is the Antichrist so
it's
boring? He's not doing
you
anything.
know, it is funny, and from what they set out in the prequel, which we can talk about in a wee bit, which I
Uh-huh.
kind of liked about it, is that I
Yeah.
felt there should have been some grander kind of momentum for the Antichrist to inflict fear into everybody, because
Yeah.
as we discussed, one of the best things I like about it is that it's the church that did it to drive people back to the church.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that I loved about the prequel, and I thought it was such a great concept.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
obviously that prequel came out fucking 50 years later. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's something that I'm like, if you could redo this whole franchise and make it like a really coherent franchise and a really good one
Yeah.
for storytelling.
I think they should do a Halloween 2018. I think they should now.
Do you think we should keep the
We,
first Omen, keep 76, keep the original, because there's
yeah,
no point in
and then
touching that, and then
scrap
do an
yeah,
Omen
scrap the
2?
sequels. Yeah.
Mm.
I think that's what they should do. I mean, look, it kind of has now got a bit complicated because of the way the first Omen ends, which we'll get to after we talk
Yeah,
about the final
yeah.
conflict. So let's talk about the final conflict, right? Uh,
The Omen 3,
this
the
was
final
written.
conflict.
The Omen
Sam Neill's.
3 final. Sam Neill's here though. I mean, I like Sam Neill. I think Sam Neill is having as much fun as he can with such a dull script.
He
Um,
loves
and
this thing.
this is what I'm saying. This is what I mean. It's like he's now in a position of power. He knows he's the Antichrist. He
He has
understands the
a following.
prophecies. He knows these things. He has a following, and yet, like I'm saying, he doesn't really do anything. He doesn't do it
No, he
until
doesn't.
no, he does. He does. He does. He kills those babies.
Well,
All
yeah,
those people
but no,
born
the
on
plot
March
the plot for
24th.
him in this film is not to destroy the world or whatever. It's to stop the second coming
Yeah.
of Christ or
Yes.
Nazareth, which I always kind of like, and like I don't know, I always
Yeah.
kind of like that idea of him just calling him Nazareth. Almost felt like more personal
Yeah.
for him to call him
Yeah.
that. But yeah, he does kill all the babies. He has that kind of
Yeah.
conflict with one of his disciples, where the disciples like, "Oh, when was your son born?" "Oh, like 10 past 11 p.m. on the
Yeah.
21st."
Yeah.
And I'm like, you should have gone a wee bit earlier, mate. You should have gone like,
Yeah.
it was like
You should.
2 in the afternoon, like like 40 minutes
Uh,
before midnight.
yeah, that was so dumb. And yeah, the ending is pretty weird. I'll give
I
it
I did I
that.
warned
When
you. I
Jesus
warned you
Christ shows
that
up,
I
I
literally
was like,
said to
right,
Lewis, because
okay.
you were like, okay, I'm gonna start watching. I was like, yeah. I was like, it's all right. It's like the ending though, bonkers,
The
and
ending,
it's
yeah.
so
I will
it's
say
so
this
bonkers.
has the one positive this has over the others. I actually think it has a fucking fantastic kill where the current the ambassador for the UK, the way he dies, I think is brilliant. I love the setup for that kill, where he gets all
Um,
the film and you see it's all the close-ups, and you see his process, and he makes this huge,
Contraption.
like from his
Oh
desk all the way to his
yeah.
door, which is like five
Um,
meters away, and he makes this whole contraption made out of like film,
yeah.
puts this
To
gun
like
in front of him,
shotgun.
and then
Yeah.
ties it to the door, orders a press conference, and when the press conference opens the doors, his assistant opens the doors, I should say, the gun just shoots
Yeah.
him in the head.
Um.
I was like, that's fucking,
What?
that was
What?
gnarly, and I
Yeah.
like
I
that.
say, once again, if it's an
Uh,
80s film, but once again, if you
yeah.
pause it perfectly, there's an amazing shot of just a mannequin with a blown out back of his head.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you
yeah.
if you pause it, it's so funny because clearly
I thought the
the
effect
skin
looked really
tone.
convincing, though. I
It
was like,
no,
that looked fucking good.
it
Yeah.
does, it does. But if
Mm,
you just pause it very quickly, it's like there's a skin tone
mm,
change. It's this funny mannequin gets all stiff, but it is a great setup because you're also like, what's happening here?
yeah.
And I like that one because it is a much more, instead of an environmental kill, it is like or like a blood clot in the brain, like
Yeah,
Mark. It is a
it's like a
very much like
possession thing.
it is a possession,
Yeah. Mm,
which there's a lot more of in this film, which I
mm,
find interesting. But I like the fact there's this like gang of priests that are like,
mm.
we're getting the band back together. We're all gonna take a knife and go for it.
Yeah, go kill him, yeah.
And Damien has his kind of group as well, which I always liked. I do think it is mad how quickly this film ends, by the way, because I
Oh,
don't know if
yeah,
you
yeah,
it's
I felt
because
that it just ends so
see
abruptly.
when you look at it, it's like 4 minutes remaining. I'm like, what do
Yeah.
you mean 4 minutes remaining? Because like It's
It's like, what are we doing?
when's this
Yeah,
conflict happening? And there's a great
yeah,
bit where like Damien is a wee bit more ruthless at this point because there is a child Peter who's a his kind of love interest, his son,
mhm,
that he's like almost trying to like kind of get ready just in case he like passes. And he goes into this trap, when he's like, "Take me to," because obviously in the context of the film, the second coming of Christ is born somewhere, right?
yeah, yeah,
And he's like, "Take me to the child," and he goes down, and the father that was at the start of the film goes out with a dagger. David just takes Peter and shoves him in front of it, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. I was like, "That's so good." I was like, "Here, mad respect, David, for just sacrificing this
Yeah.
child directly in front of me." But yeah, when Jesus Christ shows up, that is a scene and it's
Yeah,
just
that is
wild.
something
It's so
I
funny,
will give it that. But yeah, I mean,
and yeah,
yeah, it ends like whatever. The weird connection is though, this also weirdly connects to the first Omen, is this came out in 1981. Sam Neill weirdly it plays obviously Damien, and then is also in Possession, which came out in the same year, also involving some sort of weird demonic
yeah,
possession, as the title suggests. And images in From Possession are recreated in the first Omen. So let's get into the prequel because this is what I've been
yeah.
really wanting to talk about, right? Because
I
I
know,
I
cause you
watched
never
this
saw
on
it.
Disney Plus. I never saw it in
Yeah,
cinemas. I missed it, but I got to see it. It's on Disney Plus now. So I saw it the other day. Um, and yeah, I was surprised by how much I liked this film.
mm,
Like you were saying, there was weird connections to Immaculate, which came out around the same time.
yeah, yeah.
I
It's
think
friends
this
with
is a
benefits, no
more
string attached.
it's White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen situation.
Classic.
Two weird, creepy covenants
If
of
I
nuns.
had a nickel,
Um,
I'd have two.
yeah,
You know that
yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly. With weird, like people, these women getting impregnated by weird, like spawns of Christ or Satan.
Yeah,
Very bizarre. But yeah, so this was directed by Arkasha Stevenson, and what I liked about it is I think the atmosphere, and this is the scariest of all the Omen films. I think it's the most
it's
effective
very
horror
much
film
yes.
of all the Omen films. However, I will get into this as well. Like I say, it's very effective. I think the lead, who's Nell Tiger Free, who plays Margaret, Sister Margaret. So Sister Margaret is God. I actually kind of don't know how to get. I mean, we're spoiling this anyway, but like the
Yeah,
plot is a bit convoluted. So she's kind of flown over
it's
from the US, and she's
yeah.
been like raised by
Bill Nile.
but she's what no yeah Bill Nye who's like a
No,
oh God, what's the actual role of him? What's he called?
I
He's a
don't know.
cardinal. That's it. He's a cardinal.
Mhm.
So he's kind of been raised by Bill Nye, and she's been kind of in like foster these like Catholic foster homes her entire life,
Yes,
and then she's going to take her vows to become a nun in Rome, in which she's sort of introduced
as
by
an
Bill
orphanage.
Nye.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, an orphanage. She's going to teach this orphanage in Italy, and she's going to take her vows soon. And of course, in this nunnery, there's all sorts of weird happenings. She starts this bond with this little girl called, oh, what's her name? Oh my God, I can't remember. Carlita
Sh-
was her name.
yeah.
So has
Who's
this
kind of
bond with
considered
Carlita.
an aggressive child in the kind of
Yes.
orphanage.
And also she's always sent to this room called the Bad Room, and she's sort of abused by these nuns. And then of course there's this. She starts to suspect that this girl Carlita is this lost child who Father Brennan tells her about. Is that there the like you're saying, Kel? There is another sect of the church that wants to create the Antichrist in order to get
Yep.
people back into the faith, and in order to restore Catholicism's power over the world, and yeah, so she starts to believe that this Carlita girl is actually the Antichrist, and then oh, because there's this missing child, or all these childs they've tried to create with the jackal over the years, and they've all become like
Yep.
abominations or been killed at birth, and then Margaret discovers that she is in fact not the Antichrist, but the one designed to be the mother of the
Of the
Antichrist.
Antichrist,
Have
because
I
they
got that right?
discovered yes, because they
Yeah.
discovered that for
Mhm.
the beast, the Satan to
Yeah.
um conceive their son, he has to
Yeah.
mate with one of his own offspring. So
Own
all these
offspring.
girls are
Yes.
technically daughters of Satan because they've all got the
Mhm.
beast's mark on their foreheads.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
then the beast has to mate with them
Uh-huh.
to um produce the heir of
Uh-huh.
of darkness, which was Damon's
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
Now you're right in saying this because there is a great scene, Lewis, where you'll remember this, where Sister Margaret, and her pal,
Mhm.
who is it like who's her roommate? I can't remember her name now.
Uh,
Uh,
sorry, is it Luz? It's Luz. I don't
Lus
know how to pronounce it's an Italian name. I don't
Lus,
know if that's
yeah.
Luz or
Um,
Luz.
where
I can't remember.
they go out on a night out in the town,
Mhm. Mhm.
and she wakes up and she's
Uh-huh.
just staring at the camera,
Yeah,
lying
yeah,
in
and her
bed.
hair is
And
sort
mate,
of
see when I was
mhm.
at the cinema, I was like, right, something's
Mhm.
gonna happen. I was like, what's gonna
Yeah.
happen? I was like,
Yeah.
what's gonna
Yeah.
happen? And then nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's just this really
Yeah.
weird, like panning up
Uh,
shot of her lying down, her
yeah.
hair spread out in the bed, and you're like,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so if I may have my
Have your
spot,
moment, Kyle.
um,
Have your moment, Kyle.
to say that, like I said, and I said this when I originally reviewed this film,
Mhm.
what, 6 months ago now?
Well, April came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It was April, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah. This is a really good horror film.
Mhm.
The where it drops is the fact that it's an Omen prequel. And I
Mhm.
and this is what you said to me,
And
and
I
I
agree.
this is
I
my
agree. Mhm.
biggest issue with this film, because
Mhm.
this film adds a lot more sort of proper horror elements, which I don't think is a bad thing, but there's a lot more
Mhm.
visual horror that's never present in
Yeah.
those original films.
Mhm.
You do have a kind of burnt figure that shows up in her dreams, and it's
Mm.
like there for the
Mhm.
jump scares, which you don't get many
Yeah.
jump scares in the
No,
original.
there's not, but they are
Uh,
effective. There's some really creepy imagery in this. There's
there's
some
some
shots and
really
some mock
creepy
sprites that really
imagery.
stick out. Yeah.
Uh-huh. There's some logic, there's some continuity with Father Brennan, uh, conversations with Robert Thorne in the first film,
Mhm.
because the
Mhm.
biggest issue I have with this is that she is actually his mother, because the fact that I
Yeah.
thought he was birth of a jackal was
Yeah.
great. Now,
Yeah.
I also love the fact that in The Omen, it is just a jackal. But in
Yeah.
this, it's a creepy CGI jackal monster. And that
Yeah. You see the devil.
really
Well, is it the
pissed.
devil or is it some sort of
It's
like
no, that's meant to be
is
the
that
that's meant to
just
be
the
the
it's just
jackal.
the
That's
the thing
that's
of
meant to be the
Satan
demonic
created?
jackal that is
Yeah.
the
A
Satan.
demonic jack.
And
Okay, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that really pissed me off.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I love the fact that this was meant to be like a human child came out of this jackal. Because
Yeah.
the jackal as an animal is very much present in the Bible as being
Mhm.
like a kind of devil creature.
Mhm.
And I loved it, and I love the simplicity of it because there wasn't so much stuff. It paid me off because I'm like, you're really just shitting on what they said in the original film,
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
Father Brendan was like, I saw
Yeah.
his mother. I
Yeah,
saw his
that
mother.
that's the thing that
And the
gets me because like we're with Fanner Brennan, right? And so in the plot, like I think also this film, weirdly enough, I say this about films when I review them sometimes, like, oh, perhaps it's a bit too long, whatever. I think this film's too short. I think this
yeah.
film needs another 10 minutes or something, another 10, 15 minutes. Um, because the third act I think happens all too fast for me. And the
Oh,
weird thing is because we're with
yeah.
Father Brennan, who's with Margaret. Margaret realizes she's the one to birth the Antichrist, and that she is actually
yeah.
pregnant. She has been raped, and she doesn't know it by a jackal.
Yeah.
So the jackal thing, which I'm about to get into. So we're with
Yeah.
Father
Yeah. Yeah.
Brennan and Margaret. They're on their way to get rid of this baby. They get hit by a car. Brennan's knocked out. She then gets taken in to the weird cult room of the nun the what's it
The
called? A
orphanage.
monastery,
Oh,
whatever you
yeah.
want to
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
it. And obviously everyone's in their dark hoods and their demonic satanic ritual stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, this is the thing. So she gives birth to Damien and another girl,
Well,
but
see,
I'm like, Father Brennan isn't there in the room,
I
and
know. I
that's
and what also
crucial to the
annoys,
first
yeah,
film.
and what also
Uh-huh.
annoys me is like it's meant to be that Farmer Brennan was a part of this
Yeah.
cult, and
Uh-huh.
that it was like him actually birthing the Antichrist is what sent him on this downwards
Uh-huh.
frenzy, which sent him
Yeah.
to covering his room with pages of the
Uh-huh.
Bible. Like that's
Yeah.
such a great scene in the first film,
Yeah.
and like so
Yeah.
like. So when I saw this film, I came out and I was messaging you and I went,
Mhm.
"Here, you saw Immaculate," and you were like, "Yeah,"
Mhm.
and I went, how did they explain the pregnancy in that? Did it
Yeah.
have like a time of like 9 months? And you went, yeah, like there's like every
It's
like
9 months.
trimester is like a
Yeah.
chapter. And I went,
Yeah.
this doesn't. Because
No.
like as I said to you, Liz, this film annoys me by trying to treat us as stupid.
Mhm.
where it's like, here we have this main character, right? She's not gonna be the mother of the Antichrist. Don't worry about
Mhm.
that. It's not her. It's gonna be this underage girl that we have here.
Mhm.
See
Mhm.
this underage girl. I'm gonna
Yeah.
request that underage girl. She's gonna be
Yeah.
the mother of the Christ. This underage girl,
Mhm.
and you're like,
Yeah.
oh right, this child, and then you're like, are you sure it's not the main character? I'm like, no, 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 no,
Mhm.
no, 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 no,
Because
no,
like
no, no,
the
no,
Omen
that
is
would be
meant to
stupid.
start in 3 days' time, so it's like, yeah,
Literally, and
literally, yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
who is this?
Mhm.
And there's that car
Mhm.
crash scene. She steps out, and her stomach just expands, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Fuck you, movie! Don't,
It's
don't."
all super.
Oh,
I don't mind that stuff though.
I
Like
no,
I know
it's
because
just,
it's
I
demonic
know.
and evil, whatever, you know.
Like,
Yeah.
I know, but it's just like that's just. I mean, this is the issue where I was
Mhm.
like, that stuff was just so not present in the original films that it
Mhm.
kind of annoys
Yeah.
me. And I
Mhm.
was just like, if you were a little bit more like, that's what I was saying. Like, if my perspective was from Father Brennan and he
Mhm.
was in this cult and there was just all these girls and you didn't realize which one was going to be the mother, and
Yeah.
then it was like that moment, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, this one you're like, right, it's kind of obvious who is going to be the mother.
Mhm.
Let's not
Mhm.
take the piss here. Um,
Yes.
but like you
Yeah,
said, like he's
you do
not
you. I
present
mean,
at the birth.
honestly, from the club scene where it cuts to her waking up the next morning, you go, well, this feels a bit odd. Like this feels a bit
Yeah,
dodgy. She doesn't remember anything. And it's like I say. I mean, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's very very inspired by Rosemary's Baby, down to literally recreating the poster in near the end of the
yeah,
film with her like looking up in the flame and kind of like the crossfade between the flame and her looking up and
yeah,
and also her getting the way she is, the way it's sort of filmed, the way you eventually find out how she was raped and how she was impregnated with Antichrist, very similar to Rosemary's Baby with the
yeah,
satanic cult thing. It's Rosemary's Baby, which I
yeah.
don't
It
mind,
no,
but I'm
cause
just
it's
like,
yeah.
uh, with that, like you're saying, the twist isn't very twisty because you know where the plot's going. I think even if you've not
You know
seen
it's yeah.
Rosemary's Baby, you can still kind of go, "Oh, that was a weird cut. There's something,"
It's
and she doesn't remember anything. There's something going on there.
you know
Like I
what
don't think this
it
girl girl is going to be the one to raise or give birth to
it's
Damien.
a shame.
Um,
It's a shame you have to do this because I would have loved it if it's
mhm.
immaculate, and then you discover immaculate's an Omen prequel and nobody said anything like that.
Yeah.
But no, but seriously, that's the only way you can make this thing work. I don't know of any film. Has there ever been a film that kind of is like not been advertised and
Well,
you go and see it
we
and it's
were
like,
talking about literally before this show started. We were talking about the 2011 thing. The thing,
yeah, I know.
because that
It's obviously
marketed
that's the
itself
title. Yeah.
as a reboot or a remake, and that turned out at
Uh-huh.
the very end to be a actually no, it's not.
Prequel.
That turned out to be a prequel, which I think is a really cool idea. Final Destination 5 was marketed as Final
That's
Destination
amazing.
5,
That's
turns out to be a
amazing.
prequel to the first film. So
The
there
oh
is
the
ways
play
to do it.
oh that's yeah, I
Uh-huh.
know, but the thing is
Um,
like you can't hide the obviously because obviously the big like it's like if you had the thing and you never mentioned the creature until the last minute and you're like, well,
yeah,
yeah, we knew the creature was gonna be here. That's
yeah,
the kind of
yeah,
thing where I'm like, do you think? Because obviously it's almost something they could do where you call it Immaculate, and then after it's been in cinema for a few months, you retitle it Immaculate: The First Omen. But like, because they've done that
yeah.
before, because they've done that before with
Uh-huh.
Birds of Prey, where they're like, oh nah, people are seeing this for Harley Quinn, so we'll change the
Yeah,
title to Harley Quinn. They're
yeah.
bloody doing that with Wicked in June, right? People,
Yeah.
whatever the company is doing Wicked, announce Wicked Part 2, and people are like, wait, what? And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, because they don't tell you that there's a Wicked Part 1. Like, that was the
But
only way. I
I
don't know,
think also
man.
because all you need to do is you just set it when it's set. You don't meant you so you can give it a 70s look, right? But just don't say it's 1970. Well, it's five seventy
6.
one, I think it's. Oh no, because 76 is when the first Omen set, so it's 5 years before that. So you just
5
don't
years before
mention
that, 71.
you just
Oh,
don't
yeah, yeah,
mention
yeah,
it's
yeah.
1971, and then by
Yeah.
the end of it, that's almost because the Omen isn't like a franchise that's going to bring in the big bucks. It's not Alien,
No, no, no.
it's
It is
not like
a.
a big. It's not
It's
Halloween. It's not Friday the 13th.
yeah.
Um,
My
so
main
like
issue is
you could
the
do that
jackal
with it.
change. Yeah, because I was saying
Yeah,
like, so the mother is the jackal, and I always loved
yeah,
that part, and I always say it doesn't work, and that part still
uh-huh.
stings me a bit too.
Yeah, fair.
What also really not annoyed me, but kind of sequel baited me to the point I was a bit pissed off was the fact they were
Mhm.
twins.
Right. Okay. Right. I don't know why I'm saying this because I actually like this film. I would give it like a 7 out of 10. I think it's an
I,
effective horror
I,
film.
I give it
I think
I
it's
give it a 7 out of 10 as well.
yeah.
It's a
I think
good
it's
horror
I think its
film.
hands are I think its hands are tied behind its back because of what it has to do.
Yeah.
And like I'm saying, when I said the film should have ended when they recreate the Rosemary's Baby poster, I think that perfectly summates the whole film. And also, we don't get this corny sequel baity ending where she actually
Yeah.
survives, takes the baby, the twin baby away. They live in
And
some, I don't
the
know,
daughter, the
Montana or
sister.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She walks out with a shotgun.
She
Father
walks out
Brennan
because
does some Nick
Dr. Brennan.
Fury-esque, you know.
Exactly. It's so like MCU post credit scene. It feels so weird. It doesn't fit
But
the
did I give
film.
a
It's like
small fist bump just when he says the word Damien? Yes, but that's because that's just because I'm a sucker for the 1926 one, Lewis.
no.
And I'm
It's
sorry,
not a
but
good
it's just
ending though. It's
I
not a
know
good
it's not. But my
ending.
God, when he said the word Damien, did I love it? But like I just like like I said, if they
Do
played
we think
Linkin
they're gonna
Park,
do
it'd
this?
have been perfect.
I would have made perfect actually. I would have loved that. Do you think we're gonna
I
get a
don't
sequel to
think
this?
it made. I don't think so. Because if
No,
I
I
quickly
don't think
pull
so
up
either.
the figures for you, Lewis,
Go put the figures.
on a budget of 30 million, it made
Oh,
53.9,
that stinks. Worldwide,
less
Jesus.
less than half. And if I remember, not that it had a marketing like a huge market budget,
That's
but I
I don't
saw
think
a
it
lot
really
of trailers.
I don't remember seeing
Like
anything. I actually I don't remember seeing any trailer. I think I just saw a trailer once in the cinema for it, and
yeah,
I
maybe
don't remember it
it
like
might
on like
be.
really
It
widely
got put out to
advertised.
Disney Plus pretty quickly, so
Yeah, yeah.
I also love it. See if you go to the Wikipedia page, there's a whole section that just says
Uh-huh.
comparison to Immaculate.
Oh, there you
'Cause
go.
it's so
There you go. Because it's so bizarre they came around at the same time.
it's
I will
so
say like
funny.
reference, like I like the horror reference it has to it. Like I was talking about possession earlier with the weird Sam Neill connection. There is a real connection to like Isabella Gianni's performance as Anna in Possession.
Yeah.
Margaret kind of when she's when they have the car crash, she comes out of it and she has that literal her arms like freaks out, her entire body's
Hmm.
out of control. Like it is like her body's being possessed, and then like the blood
Yeah.
comes out of her and she's just like frothing at the mouth and stuff. It's literally possession. It's like
It's great.
obviously it's a very clear cut reference. The Rosemary's Baby thing, like I've talked about a lot. I think even there's Mulholland Drive in there, like when she arrives at the airport when it's so sunny and everyone's so happy and smiley and everyone's great. And this was to me 2 minutes in, I was like, well, this is okay. Well, he's evil because Bill Nye's showing up. I was like, Bill Nye's evil.
Yeah.
I was just like, the way it was, I was
What
like, oh, I'm so happy to see you, and I was like, he's evil. It had just that whole
question? What
Mulholland
was
Drive, like
your
the one
yeah?
we watched up at the airport thing. Yeah, what you
I
say?
just want to say that it
Mm,
released 5th of April and it was on Disney Plus by the 20th of May. So it's had a long time
mm,
to sit on Disney Plus. So I don't
yeah.
know if they'll look at the viewing figures and go, right, the budget's not mental.
Hmm.
We could give it more. But what was your viewing order with these? Just out of interest.
I watched Omen, then I watched the first Omen, then I watched Untitled.
Right. Yeah,
Because
okay. Now
I was really eager to watch the first
the
Omen.
first I mean
Just to know more about it.
I've
Yeah.
been begging you. I
Mhm.
think
Yeah,
two
yeah.
films I was like the two films
That
that
and the
I've
Book of
seen this year that
Clarence.
I
I
was
still like to watch the Book of Clarence.
that was it. That was the other one. I was like,
Yeah,
those are the
yeah.
two films I'm like Lewis needs to
Mhm,
see. Both
mhm,
obviously really biblical to a certain
mhm.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely something where would I be interested to see a sequel? Sure. Like
I think if
I
they got
would
the same crew
love
attached, I would like to see Arkasha Stevenson back and
yeah, getting the band back
I
together,
keep
yeah,
forgetting her
100%.
name. What's it? Nell Tiger Free. I would love to see those two back doing it
Yeah.
because I think when we don't have to deal with the prequel and convoluted plot and connecting everything because we're setting this 5 days before the original film. Um, when they
I mean,
aren't doing that, it has a real creep factor and it's really effective. And I think she's brilliant in the lead. And
I
if they were
would
doing a
give
sequel, I'd
it
want those two back to do it.
I would give them
Mhm.
the benefit and I'd say do what we want, do a Halloween 2018, have this
Mm.
sequel be a sequel to the original as well, and
Wow.
discard
Okay.
Damien Omen 2 in the
How
final
would you bring
conflict.
her and the girl into it? I mean, you could do
I
anything
don't
with
know.
sequels, but yeah.
Give me a minute with the script
Well, if
because
you, well,
I
even
have
then,
to
you
get my
could have a,
emotional bit.
you could have running along if you, we could just have their own Omen franchise with the girl as well, running
I
alongside the
know, but that
original. Yeah.
annoys me. That doesn't make sense. The prequel already annoyed me enough. I would like the fact that if she actually was like genuinely, you could set it where she just finds a newspaper one day and it's Father Brennan's death, and she kind of goes,
Yeah,
right,
we could
this
carry
is
on from
enough
that.
to
Yeah.
get me back into, you know, that this child is this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
That and she's obviously very against it and everything, and maybe, you know, you
Mhm.
may, if you want to do something with the daughter and be like, she's the light to the dark, the yin and the yang, do it. I don't
Oh,
care.
maybe.
I will hate it, but you know, half the films I see I hate that I still weirdly
Yeah.
enjoy. But like, I I do think that, you know, I have all the films that I kind of really wish got a sequel this year. Um, as we were talking off the show, two out of the three have just confirmed a sequel.
Well, there you
That being
go. This
Alien,
one's also
Romulus,
owned by
and Kingdom of the
Disney.
Planet of the King, and they're also backed by Disney. Bob Iger, if you want to do something before you retire, just give this another sequel. Let me
Give
see.
another Omen
And
film. Yeah.
if you want to call it
Yeah.
the second Omen, I'll be happy with that. I won't argue.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect. You could literally call it the second Omen. Because also that
I
makes so much
won't
sense
argue.
because the little girl is the second Omen, Kyle. The little
Yeah,
girl would be the second Omen.
I wouldn't argue that much. I would
No.
argue still because I'm strangely passionate about this franchise, which
Yeah.
is mostly shit.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, well, I
we,
didn't include the two. If we include the four films, I think it's pretty 50-50. I think there's
yeah,
two good and two
but
bad in there. So, uh, right.
we,
Anyway,
yeah,
let's wrap things up there. So, thank you, Kyle, for talking
yeah,
Omen with me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me for
Yeah.
once. Yeah,
Yeah, there you go. On next week's episode, me and Kyle will have a review for the final in the Venom franchise. Venom
yes.
3, The
Did you?
Last Dance.
I saw somebody's thing
Uh,
where it's like, by the way, if you combine all the Rotten Tomato scores, it's 151. So it is actually amazing.
well, we'll find out if it's amazing on Sunday night. But also we'll be oh shit, my AirPod's gone.
Oh no.
We'll also I was like, "Oh, fell out." We'll also be doing our Halloween horror hidden gems as well, just a little couple picks
Oh
because it
right.
will be the week of Halloween. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's what we'll do next week. But look, we just give our
Damien
opinions
Omen
on
too.
Omen 2. No, please do not watch that. I thoroughly recommend you not to watch the Omen 2. Because I had to and it was horrible. Right, we just give our opinions on all those Omen films plus the Wild Robot. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.